everybody. Welcome to Buzzing About Romance. I am Becky, and joining me for this episode is Amanda. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Becky.
As you continue your 2025 episode streak.
Oh, am I on it? Have I been on every one?
Nah, you didn't do category with me. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But all the regular ones. And Leah.
That doesn't count because that was... Hi.
Authors.
I was gonna say, that one doesn't count because that was all author guests.
Right. So you guys are like on your streak. And then joining us, I believe, for the first time in 2025?
Yeah.
Heather.
For the episode, yeah.
Hi, Heather.
Hi, I'm here.
Because, well, you were here with us Wednesday night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So now you're here tonight. Look at that.
No hockey. I don't even know what to do with myself.
Don't even know what to do. Okay, so it has been a week. Last week, there was a lot. I know everybody was deep in their feels or deep in their avoidance. I have to say a couple things, and then we'll get to what this episode's about. First up, this is my public service announcement. For our listeners who are readers, if you did not know, Passionflix is a streaming service that buys a lot of indie author TV and film rights and either creates movies or series based on those books and series. And you're thinking, oh my God, yes, I want to sign up for this. And I am here to ask you, please don't. So Passionflix is owned by Tosca Musk, who is the sister of Elon Musk. And she has been defending him all week on social media for his actions at the inauguration, which no matter which side of the aisle you are on, you have to agree that that hand gesture was inappropriate.
On all levels.
On all levels.
Yes.
There is no excuse for it.
1,000%.
So,
Every single level.
but one of the things so I've shared a couple things over on Threads. If you don't follow Buzzing About Romance on Threads or on Blue Skies, you should go over there and do that because I've shared a couple things about this situation. And one of the things that has repeatedly come up is, oh, I get Passionflix, but I didn't know it was owned by her. It is solely owned by her. The money coming from it is from her family money. And also the movies are bad.
They're not great.
It's like B list, not like D list bad.
Yeah. Well,
Like not even B list. Like
and I know
and
it's
not even on purpose.
It's not. And I know people are bummed because J.R. Ward's Black Dagger Brotherhood is supposed to be in a series over there coming later this summer, earlier this fall. And it's unfortunate. But anyway, money speaks louder than words sometimes, so cancel that subscription or don't get it. Okay, enough of that. That's all I had to talk about for this week because the rest of it, I can't.
Need to bring us down at the beginning of an episode.
It's okay.
The only way to go is up now.
Now we're only just going to go up, right?
This is true.
Actually, tonight, I think we're talking about one of the hardest tropes. It's one that puts you deep in your feels, this trope.
Yes.
I love this trope, but it's very, very difficult for authors to get right, in my opinion.
Yes.
I'm sure that other people think that authors get it right all the time, but I do not agree with that.
No,
still.
I don't think we would agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not counting you guys in that.
To answer Bonnie's questions, yes, this is who is producing the Willows Winters books to movies. Yes. Anyway, we'll talk about that tomorrow night at Silent Book Club because I'll share all my thoughts there for the Patreon members. Okay. Welcome to this episode of Buzzing About Romance. Today we're diving into second chance romance with a twist. The series where love gets a second shot for couples who have already walked down the aisle, whether it's a marriage in crisis or a couple finding their way back together after divorce. But also, what about those ones that the annulment didn't ever happen? These stories are packed with emotion, tension, and the ultimate promise of redemption and renewal. We'll explore what makes these romances so compelling, from the raw emotional stakes to the triumph of overcoming past pain. Get ready for heartfelt moments, deep character growth, and plenty of books recommendations that will tug at your heartstrings. So let's talk about second chance romance with a twist. Okay, so we are going to define what is second chance romance, what we consider marriage in crisis, and then the still married one. Because I think there's some key components to each of them that it's a good reminder for us to kind of go through. So, second chance itself is a subgenre of romance fiction. Second chance is not just a trope. I think it classifies itself as a whole subgenre.
I think so too, because there's so many options for second chance.
Yeah, I think second chance is broad. So, like, it could be the married couple that divorces or thinks they divorce, or it's people who've had a relationship, broke up, and then like they have a second chance at love again.
So this trope often emphasizes the themes of redemption, growth, forgiveness, and the enduring power of love. Also, this is not a trope that you can give us vibes. Vibes do not work in this trope, in my opinion. We got to have stakes.
People try though.
They try and they get it wrong. Second chance romance can also deal with, it can also be like childhood, not the right time, or wrong sibling, wrong time kind of situation. I mean, there's so many breakdowns into second chance.
Yeah.
In this episode, we are focusing, one of the second chance we're focusing on is second chance. They were previously married and divorced. And
Or not.
well, we'll get to that one.
Divorced.
So they're divorced and something has brought them back together. So that's the first second chance that we're covering. Second chance that we're also covering, the second chance we're covering, is the marriage in crisis. And this is the romance trope is a deeply emotional story where the central conflict revolves around a married couple whose relationship is on the brink of collapse. The story focuses on their journey to either salvage their marriage or come to terms with the potential end. But we know this is romance, so they have to come together with an HEA in marriage in crisis. Okay, what is still married? Because I had a couple DMs today, because I asked a question on Threads, and I had a couple DMs today about what do I mean still married? And I know that I've read many more of these than I could think of today.
Honestly, like I was going through them, like books today to finalize my list, and I found a bunch more. But it's basically when they get divorced and it either doesn't get filed or they are separated. Like a couple of mine on my list, like the wife like disappears and they don't end up ever getting divorced, but like he never files for divorce. So those are my like how I went with both of those different
I think about
scenarios.
Sweet Home Alabama, the movie, right?
Right.
Where she
Yeah.
has kept sending him divorce papers and it's sort of like almost like it's forgotten about. And then when she like they're put up against it and she's like, dude, sign these. I like need to move on with my life.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, and slams the door in her face.
So still married refers to the subgenre of second chance where central conflicts resolved around a couple who believe they're divorced or separated only discover they are still married. The revelation forces the characters to confront unresolved feelings, past misunderstandings, or hidden truths, creating opportunity for the rekindling of love. So let's talk about all of these second chances. And the first question is, why do readers love these? What is it about these 3 second chances that keeps you going back? Because again, like Amanda said, it has to be done right.
So I'm
Yeah, I think it's that love against all odds. It's like you're giving an extra emphasis on overcoming something for your love.
Yeah. Love conquers all. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Heather?
I don't like them.
Oh, okay. Well,
I am sorry. There are just some of them are
she
like you
says
said, though.
this, but one of the authors that you read constantly does
Yeah.
You
them.
write mostly second chance.
I know. So that's I think you have to do it like you said that we have to do it
Yeah.
right. And there has to be like a really good reason. I am not a fan of the miscommunication trope, which I know Becky loses her marbles. It seems so immature to me. Like, just have a conversation like
But what
adults.
happens when they got married at 18 and 21 and they were like, okay, you know what? This is not working. We cannot be together. This isn't healthy. And so, therefore, they end up getting divorced. Or,
I'm coming in hot.
like, one of my, yeah, Heather is coming in hot. Like, she brought all the buckets of crazy tonight.
I did.
Because I think about, like, okay, so my favorite second chance romance is Paradise by Judith McNaught. It was written in 1991.
I'm just gonna say this. I feel like you have said that book on every single
Oh, yeah,
episode that
this
Of
we've
year.
had this
2025.
year.
I have.
The Year of Paradise.
It's the year of
How
Paradise.
could Becky slip that into an episode?
That should put you on a bingo card.
On a bingo
has
card.
2012 bingo card.
Okay,
How
okay,
often?
you may continue. I'm sorry.
So
I just had to say that.
Paradise. So the story starts out, they're or he's 22, she's 19. He's in town for a short period of time. They hook up. He's very blue collar from small town Indiana. He's going to go work on one of the oil rigs for a family that is friends with her father. And her family owns the big Chicago department store like Marshall Field's. And so she's a wealthy trust fund baby. He's from the wrong side of the tracks. They have one night together. She finds out she's pregnant. She goes to his small town and they try to work it out. In the meantime, he has to go work for the oil rig because that's how he's planning on making his money and getting, creating his start of life. They get married. She goes back to Chicago to live with her father. She ends up miscarrying, and her father arranges for her divorce. Fast forward 7 years, and she's going to get remarried. But then it comes out that there's this scandal that this lawyer from like the east side of Chicago was actually not really a lawyer and he never filed paperwork. And it comes out that she and this guy are not divorced. Well, in the meantime, he's gone on to become a millionaire, a multimillionaire, the wealthiest of wealth. And she has to ask him for a divorce, but he demands 2 months of her time before he'll grant the divorce. But the miscommunication works there because they were young and the family steps in and tries to manipulate things both ways.
I think my bigger problem comes with if we're getting to all three, it's the marriage in crisis. It's the ones where they're actually married and they're having the problems while they're together. Like I have much easier time with like the second chance after they've already been divorced or the second chance after they're still married and they don't know it, but they've separated for a period of time. I have a harder time with the marriage in crisis where they're going through it. There are several that I like. I mean, of course, like Marie Johnston does one of my favorite ones, but or two of my favorite ones. So she's really good at it. But like I generally don't love that while they're like it's just that angst, like while they're, married in the same house together and possibly have kids in that situation. That's where it gets hard for me.
So in Marriage in Crisis, we've all read some that are really, really good, but then there are others that aren't as good, that fall flat. And why did those fall flat for you?
Because there's no like real resolution to why they were in crisis in the first place. Like I read one, I'm not going to name names on this one, but he was obsessed with like doing more, making money, And he forgot about her essentially. Like there just every little thing like fell to the wayside because it wasn't important as like making sure she had the life that he thought that she should live. And by the end of the book, like I got that their relationship was better, but I didn't feel like his work ethic was any different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they did talk things out, but I still did not see that relationship really getting better. And so it's like,
Something makes me feel like this might be the trad wife cheating book.
no, it's not that
Okay,
one.
because it
Actually,
I think
sounds a
his
lot like a trad wife
actions
treating.
speak louder than words. So if the author tells you that this person's changed versus showing you that
yeah.
the character changed, that's what can make or break it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, don't you think it comes down to character growth in all three of these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the author
Yeah.
really has to spend a lot of time showing us the character's growth. I look at
Well,
Steel by Sawyer Bennett. Like
Yep.
Yeah.
he was so focused that he just thought he had to be the hockey player, come home, provide for his wife, be the nice guy at home, but she handled everything and she didn't really have any needs. And that's a similar theme in the Bromance Book Club by Lyssa K. Adams. You know, they thought the sport was enough, and the money they brought in was enough that the spark had died. Nobody had, because as we all know in relationships, if you don't nurture it, you don't feed it, it is going to fizzle out. But I think in that book, like, it's a great example of showing he had to figure out what was wrong. Why did she want the divorce? And then he had to do the work.
Yeah.
well,
In
and I
under
think,
300 pages.
Yeah.
And
but
it was completely believable.
yeah, those both were. But I think it depends on what was the breaking point anyway. Because so
Mhm.
Allison Rhymes, like she often rates cheating in her books, like in her Broken Playbook, like
Mm.
she walks in on him cheating. And the whole basis of like, and she asked for divorce right away. They start through therapy and all those things. And but by the end of the book, like I'm not 100% sure if I believe that like he truly is going to change. I feel like he's in the start of it, but I needed like another year or two down the road where they're still working on like their relationship and they're still together and he's still faithful. Like I wasn't I was satisfied in the sense where like I could definitely see that he was making an effort to change him, but I don't think that I still am not sure if it would last.
I'm going to say something shocking.
Mhm.
These are the books that need epilogues and more than one.
Yes.
Yeah.
These are
Yeah.
not books that can just end and feel HFN. Because then how do we know? And this is part of my gripe when it comes to vibes and no stakes. How do we know that if there isn't another bump or hurdle in the road, that that's not going to be the one that tears them apart?
Yeah.
And so that's why I do think in these books an epilogue is beneficial to show us, 2, 5, 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or have it be part of a series where you're going to see them in later books.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and the one I'm talking about is this series, and I haven't read the later books because I didn't love the way she wrote it, so it's like
Yeah.
not invested in the series. So maybe like by book 3 of that, like I would feel differently, but
Do you
Yeah,
think?
that
Go ahead, Heather.
no, I agree that it needs to be more than like 2 weeks down the road, right? Like it needs to be, you need to know further down, like
yeah.
you didn't go back, didn't go back to their old ways.
Do you think in these books, the fact that they have the established relationship, that it's absolutely some of those books that we don't need 400 and 500 pages of? I mean, not that we ever need a book with 500 pages,
No.
but as a second chance, some of the groundwork is already there.
Yeah.
So these should read faster or be shorter in page numbers.
Well, but I'm not saying it should be a 400-page book, but like sometimes the way in which the relationship needs to be sussed out and like come back together, like in the reasoning, like for the length definitely works. But sometimes it's too much at the same time. Because so Victoria Page, she does like chaos a lot, but like her wife assignment book, like they are basically on the outs, like when the book opens. But he's been having like a lot of PTSD issues and like there's no communication and things like that. And I think that book is like 375 or something like that. But I think if that book had been shorter, it wouldn't have worked with the way that the story played out.
Yeah, and I think it depends because I have Birthright by Nora Roberts on my list, but there's a lot of other things going on. Like there's
Hmm.
a suspense element. She's also finds out she was like sold as a child to an adoption agency, and so there's two other whole like plot points going on there. But I think if you're only doing the relationship, yeah, I mean I don't have much use for over 300 pages at that point.
Yeah.
So I think in a lot of these books, and somebody said it's the angstier side of Second Chance. It was Stacy's angstier side of Second Chance. Yes. But don't you think that these books, and I agree with that, what Stacy said, but don't you think that the emotional conflict, the emotional entanglement in it creates, is what creates that tension? So I don't know that a Still Married has the same tension as Second Chance After Divorce.
Think it depends on the circumstances on the separation and why they're still married. Because I have a couple where, like I said, like either the wife or the husband left, they couldn't find them to either send divorce papers or try and like come back together. And then when they came back together, like the leaving itself was like the big issue. And like, why did they come back? And like one of them, it's a Jessica Prince. It's the second time around.
Yeah, I have that one on my list too.
Like he leaves,
Yeah.
but does not divorce her. It's been like 10 years. Like they have been with other people, but like
Yeah.
knowingly like not being divorced and never thought they would see each other because she honestly, I think she sent divorce papers or tried to send divorce papers.
Yeah. But she didn't know, I don't think she knew where he was.
No. And so it's
Yeah.
like, but then they happen to meet again.
Yeah.
Like
Like on the sidewalk in his town.
on a random sidewalk in the small town. And so it's
Yeah.
like their coming back together was like shocking for
Yes.
them. And so I like, so that one, like it's the circumstances of the coming back together, not like the still married. Like there was, it was like accidentally came back together instead of purposely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like I went a little left in my
I
explanation,
was gonna
but
say I forgot what we were talking about.
It's okay.
I
Um,
hope that I hope it made sense.
do you think there's degrees of betrayal that happened
Yes.
that you can forgive in these type of second chances? Or is it like all betrayal is the same? Or is there
No,
degrees?
I feel like there's levels.
Yeah. I mean, I won't read a cheating book if they're married. Like
And
I won't
clearly
do
I
it. Like,
will read anything at this point.
so that's my line. Like I've read one like trilogy that was, I mean, and they weren't even married. So yeah, I've never actually read one like cheating where they were married. No, I can't say that I ever would. I mean, maybe, who knows? I might rage read one day, but
That's how I read my first one. I rage
yeah.
read it and I was like, this really is not that bad. I will go back for more.
Yeah. Yeah, I rage read like an engaged one and I'm still mad about it. So I don't think that's ever
You
going to
probably
change
wouldn't
for
be able
me.
to handle it.
No.
I follow Leah. Why are they still married matters.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I lost track of my own
That
thoughts
was from
halfway through
Jenny.
that. So I
But
know I
Jenny
read that.
speaks us. You know what I mean?
Jenny
Yeah.
does speak our
Jenny's in the
language.
chat and she can help us out.
Yeah.
She can.
Jenny can translate for us. Yes.
God.
Don't you think that in these books there is power with the idea of hope and redemption, and that, you know, even if you made mistakes, that you can be forgiven? Maybe you were a workaholic. Maybe you did leave and didn't tell them where you were going, but you had to fix you first before you could come back.
I think so. I have never been a huge fan. And then I went and read Devney Perry for the first time in 2024. I know, blow everyone away. But the Clover Chapel is that. So they were married in Vegas. They have one night and then they separate for like years. And then she just randomly shows up in his town and he's like, I kind of got my poop in a group. I really want to prove to you that I like
Repeat that.
She got her poops in a group.
poop in a group. It's like getting your shit together.
I know, but
Okay.
Sorry.
It's
I
the
don't know.
teacher way to say it, you guys.
No,
Nice.
I'm kidding.
No, I'm
It's the
Get it together.
PG.
So, and he kind of is like, you have to like give me a chance. Like, I want to prove to you that I am the man that
So
you.
she does that one right, but then there's
Totally.
that fucking
but then she
Garnet
has
Falls.
Garnet
Oh, but he's
Flats,
married to
Garnet
somebody
Flats.
else.
Yes,
He's
married to someone else.
I
in that
haven't
one.
read Garnet Flats yet. So
Don't.
I can't
Don't.
speak
Don't
to
do
that.
it.
Skip it. You don't need
want
to read it.
You will pitch the book across the room. Like,
It
you will
is
set shit on
Everything
fire.
It is one of the things we hate about Second Chance.
Yeah.
Okay, then I won't read it.
Don't read
Yeah, no,
it.
he's
Don't want
married to
to.
somebody else in that one, not her.
But it's Second Chance, though, right? Were they
Yeah,
married
yeah.
previous
Because
and
they were
got
going
divorced?
to get married, but then he married the friend, but then he doesn't sleep with her, but sleeps beside her
For
for
7
7
fucking
years while
years,
raising
yeah.
her child, who isn't
And pretending
his.
like it's his. Yeah.
It's like that one
That sounds
Natasha Madison
infuriating.
too, book 1 in the Southern series.
Oh, yeah.
He,
But
The Southern series. Hey, what one?
the first
book
two.
1 in the Southern series. So they are together, and then
By
the
who?
mean girl, Natasha Madison.
Oh, yes.
The mean girl who like
Yes.
says she's
Yeah.
pregnant and claims it's his, but it's not really his, and he doesn't like. And so the girlfriend like leaves because she's devastated. And did they get married? Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Can't remember.
And then divorced.
They get married, and they're divorced, and she comes home, and then it all comes out.
Yeah.
Like it just makes me a little
Yeah,
angry.
we don't care for those.
Yeah, I don't like the Southern series. That's why I didn't read it.
I mean, we
There-
don't care for that style of book where there's that like, you know, that whole situation.
It's just stupid. That's why.
This is one of the things that bugs Leah, and we've talked about this, especially with
Oh yeah.
one of our November book club book. They were married. No, they were just dating.
It doesn't matter if they're married or
Separated.
dating
But in that time that they're apart, she pines for him
Oh.
and sleeps with no one.
and sleeps with no one, and then he is out horn dogging it up.
Like, why can't she horn dog it up too? Or why can't he be the celibate piner and she be the hoe?
Right. I mean, every woman deserves
just-
a hoe era.
Phase. Yeah.
I mean,
Like that
we
is
all
one
need to
of
be a
my-
little slutty sometimes.
That is one of my biggest pet peeves in Second Chance is the fact that 8 times out of 10, the woman
Yeah.
is this celibate idiot where nobody could live up to him and blah, blah, blah. And he is raw dogging like every other person.
Oh, I read one the opposite the other day and I have to remember it and I'll let you know what it is, but it's
Within-
the
Oh, please
opposite.
do.
Yeah.
But within that, one of the things that we have to kind of think about is the unfinished
welcome, Heather.
business. The unfinished business that comes with Second Chance. There's something that is still tying them to each other. And I think that the unfinished business, I think in order for it to be good, the unfinished business has to be established very quickly. For example, Lexi Ryan's
Every little piece of me.
Every Little Piece of Me.
You're welcome.
It's established very quickly that she's planning on getting married. She sends him in
A wedding invitation.
a wedding invitation. Oh, and come to find out, they're still married from a weekend in Vegas like 10 years previous or something.
Yeah.
And so, but what's at stake, the unfinished business, it has to be there and it needs to be established very quickly within the story, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
It can't be something that just comes out like Alexandra House does that with her Holding. They were married young. They got divorced because she wasn't taking care of her mental health. She was diagnosed bipolar and was not taking her medication, and he's trying to pursue his professional hockey career. And they come back together because she is taking her medication and she needs help with a project, and they fall back in love. But they never really fell out of love with each other. It's just that what was at stake?
Well, that's circumstance.
You know, but the stake there in that one, the unfinished business, is her mental health and how she deals with it. And then, do you think there is power at that chance to reconnect? Is that why you think, why authors write this over and over? Is that putting out in the universe that there is chance for reconnection? Because authors write tons of second chances.
But not all of them are good. Clearly.
They aren't, but is it, why do authors keep writing it then?
Well, and I also think too, like we talked about, like this is it's almost its own genre. There are so many different ways to do a second chance. So I think because there are just so many ways to do it that, you know, if an author picks something, it's, you know, there's a good chance it might involve some kind of second chance.
And not to say it in a bad way, but it makes the backstory easy. Like they already met, like there was already a connection. Like it's not saying that like the backstory itself is not complicated to create, like why they broke up and things like that. But like you don't have to create a connection or think of a connection. Like you already have one. Like they went to school together and they fell in love and they dated through high school, and then college broke them apart because Mickey Miller is it Mickey Miller, the substitute? I think it's him.
Yeah, that's him.
Like they go to, like they're at college on separate sides of this, like the country, and like circumstances happen, they grow apart, and then they come back. Like he lives in their hometown, she comes back to the hometown to teach, and they reconnect that way. Like, but it makes it easy that they have a connection already.
So people who, this is a random question, I just thought of it. So lots of people hate on instant connection.
Yeah.
So don't you think that they would then love second chance, because there's obviously this deep-seated connection already established?
I would be curious to see if those people
do love second chance.
Well, I mean,
but I think with
two of mine are like instant connections. They get married in Vegas and then they separate. I mean, so I still like the instant connection because I have like the one Leah was talking about, like they get married in Vegas and then he goes to the military, and also like Until June by Aurora Rose Reynolds is the same.
I have that one on my list too.
But they get divorced before he, you know, they get secretly divorced. But like I don't know. I think there's something for everybody in a second chance.
But I love instant connection, but I struggle with second chances.
Well, I really like instant connection, but also it's hard to make it believable.
See, I don't think so.
There are some authors that can't do it.
Well, I think there are some authors that can't do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we can say that for every trope. There are some authors that cannot write sports romance. Stop doing it. There are some authors that can't write friends to lovers. Please stop doing it.
Well, and that's the thing. Like there is an author for every genre or subgenre in every trope. Like there are some that do them exceptionally well and some that do not.
Like Marie Johnston does second chance, marriage and crisis so well.
Yeah, she really does.
And divorced.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. Just anything we're talking about tonight, she does really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
In every
because she
season.
actually has each of these too, because like
she does.
King's Queen, their marriage in crisis. The still married romance is Make Me Shiver because they're just estranged, and then the divorced is
An unfinished memory.
Unfinished memory. I couldn't think of which one it was.
Jesus.
But so thinking about like an unfinished memory, like we saw their relationships sort of crumble,
Fall apart.
Like in the other book. So there wasn't necessarily that backstory because we already got it. But if you didn't read those other books, you weren't confused if you came into unfinished memory.
Yeah. So back to our point about instant connection, who Jenny's commented on the YouTube. chat. Not always. It depends on why they aren't together anymore. I hate when one leaves because of an ultimatum from an outside person. And I actually think those are the easier ones to read, like, and to enjoy, because neither one of them is at fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
If it's like a
miscommunication,
parent.
yeah.
Yeah.
The miscommunication happened because they didn't come together to fact check, but they really couldn't because this
Yeah.
outside, I think it's a similar thing with like romantic suspense, right?
Yeah,
It's
and you get a lot of those in romantic suspense. You'll get like the, situation where you have like an outside force that's keeping them apart. So
yeah.
I like those too. So
I do too.
Okay, well, let's talk book recs that we haven't already spilled. Jen Ellen says sometimes second chance is used to make main characters have a connection so the author can just jump right into the story. And I think that's true. I think that's
Yeah.
and I think that's some of the ease too in small town romances that everybody in town knows each other. So the connection you can kind of jump in. The only time it gets complicated is if it's someone new into a small town. But if they
Yeah, but I think
all
that
grew up in the same small town.
But I think when you bring somebody new into the small town, it works really well because it's like it's this new like enigma of a person. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
what are they all about and why are they in my town?
Which is why we read them all.
Which
Okay,
is why we read them.
let's talk books. Heather, let's start with Married and Divorced, Second Chance.
So I have it's by Ashley James and it's called Burning the Midnight Oil. It's a MM age gap. And they get divorced because one of them like loses his parents and he's not taking care of his mental health, and it just really they divorce, and they come back together years later, and yeah, it's really good. You meet them in the very first book and sort of you get to know them. One's a veterinarian. It's really good. I really like it. There is cheating. Like one of them cheats, like not on each other, but with each other. So just an FYI.
What do you have, Amanda?
One and Only by Nora Everly. It's
Oh, I
part
have
of
that one
her
too.
Sweetbriar series. It's Kate and Charlotte. So they were each other's like first love, like first crush, first kiss, first like everything. And then they get married and she decides that she wants to leave the small town and have a different life. And he doesn't want to leave. So they get divorced. And then she comes back to town. There's a little bit of suspense element to that one. She has some trouble that she brings back, and so he kind of helps her out with that, and they get back together. So
What do you have, Leah? If now we've taken like two, at least
No, it's
two.
okay. I have
he
more.
has a lot.
I read a decent amount of these, but Dungeon Master by Golden Angel, they are divorced, but they are basically exes with benefits, but they both go to the same club. And she has decided that she is done. Like she is not going to keep going back to him for his stuff anymore. And
For his
she's going to
prowess.
she's going to move on.
Someone
But
else can
that's
spank
not
her.
like that.
It's a really good book.
It is a really
and
great
it's
book.
Golden Angel. So, I mean, you're going into like, you're going to get some stakes and some kink and all those things. But yeah, it's really well done.
There's a lot of
Like, I just
spanking in that
really-
book.
I mean, there's a lot of spanking in all of her books. So,
And they're older. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
they're
And they've been divorced for 10 years, but like you definitely know they still care about each other because they don't play with anybody else. They only play like with each other. So
So my first one is Hate the One You're With by Kendall Hale. This one, they get married at 18 because his father is sick and her grandmother has a thing in the will that says, she has to get married. Anyway, they got married at 18 and then they got divorced because he became a Navy SEAL. She just didn't want to deal with it anymore. Go forward. Comes back afterwards and they reconnect because grandma is still pulling strings. Like super manipulative grandma if you like a nosy grandma, which after this week, I feel like I might be in love with some nosy grandmas. Like those
I always love the nosy grandma.
octogenarians, those ladies, they're feisty.
Well, because
I
they give no fucks anymore.
I want to be Gladys. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to wear the sparkles and be in my hoe era. Um, so, so I have that one. Heather, what's next?
I have Power Play by Kat Mazira. It is book 1 in her Ellie Phantom series. So he is a goalie nearing retirement. She actually becomes the owner of the LA Phantoms. Her late husband she inherits this. They were married super duper young. They were just very immature. They ended up getting divorced. And there's some like drama and like suspense that brings them together. And I think it's super well done. I really, really like this book a lot. It's really good.
Amanda, what do you got?
Okay, I'm stealing this one because it's like the only other one I have because I don't love these. I have Always the One for Me by Carrie Ann Ryan in
Yeah,
her
it's a good
Wilder
one.
Brothers series. It's Kendall and Eli. They're divorced, and then she comes back to work at the restaurant at the winery ranch, whatever you want to call it. And that one's really emotional. I like that one a lot. Like, I mean, you really feel like, there was a reason and he's worked through some stuff and,
Yeah.
I feel like they, I believe their
That book
AGA,
was so messy, though. Like, you
It
can't
was.
help but believe it. Because
Yeah.
in the end, they
Series
were
is
both
pretty messy.
standing. That whole series is messy, for
Yeah.
sure.
I feel like Carrie Ann was going through some stuff when she was writing
She
it.
might have been going through some stuff. Leah, what do you have for Married and Divorced?
Broken Miles by
I have that on my
Claire
list.
Kingsley. This is book 1 in the Miles series. So Zoe has stayed they're in Seattle, right?
Yeah.
She has stayed on the Miles family like winery and has worked for them. Um, his name is not even in my head right now. But he is like in the city in California and is a lawyer. He's the one who left. They've been divorced for a while and he comes home and she's dating someone, he's dating someone. So they have both like been with other people. So yay for Claire Kingsley for doing that. But it works really well. Like they work through their issues. They talk about the problems, like what broke them. And I definitely believe like their HEA by the end of it. And like it's book 1, so you get to see like more of their progression like throughout the series. And like definitely by the end of the series, like you're invested in the whole family, to be honest.
Lots of bed burning in that book, in that series.
There's a lot of bed burning in that one. So I will do Watch Me Unravel by Julia Wolf. They get married at a young age, have a baby together, and then get divorced because he is on the road, not there helping with the child. He is a rock star, a drummer. He is a whore after they are divorced, but she's moved on too and gotten engaged. And it's that rock star messiness kind of thing. Fast forward, their teenage daughter breaks her leg and he comes home off tour to help. And they reconnect, and it's not parent trapped. Like, they're not parent trapped, but
They're kind of parent trapped though.
they are kind of parent trapped a little bit.
If only she had a twin.
If only she had a twin. Okay, so next we are going to go Marriage in Crisis, and I'll start because this one kind of falls between the two, Married and Divorced, but Marriage in Crisis. And that is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This is book 1 in her Skyland series. So they're married, they have kids, they own a business together, they've decided they cannot be happy together, and they start the divorce process. And I can't remember exactly if they have the divorce and then they have to enter into counseling, for the co-parenting and all of that, and then they come back together.
I don't think the divorce is ever
See,
finalized.
that's why I think it's Marriage in Crisis. But
I think it is, the stipulation is they have to do the counseling before
what
it
it
will be
was?
granted.
I will say this book is currently available in Kindle Unlimited right now because book 3 comes out later this spring. So if you have not read this series and if you are looking for Kennedy Ryan to emotionally break you, um, before I let go, I highly recommend it. And it's in all the libraries. So it will, it's emotional. But again, it's Kennedy Ryan where she does it so right that you are like, okay, I'm here. Okay, so Amanda, what do you have for Marriage in Crisis?
Marriage in Crisis, like I don't have a lot. Like I don't I don't love it. I think really the only one I have on my list is King's Queen by Marie Johnston.
Well, Steel. You talked about Steel earlier.
Well, yeah, those two. Those are the only ones I had. Oh yeah, that one's
Mhm.
on there too. But yeah, those are really my only
Well, Make Me
ones.
Shiver is technically Marriage in Crisis
Yeah, I
too.
would say they're still married because she leaves. Like,
It's only 18 months. Like she just
yeah,
hasn't seen him. Like she won't divorce him.
yeah,
Like
and that one's my favorite actually. Like if you go with all three of Marie Johnston's, like Make Me Shiver is my favorite. Like Lainey and Archer are, yeah, like
Yeah.
she leaves him. He's not paying attention to her, and like she just goes back home, and then he comes back out, and he's like, "Well, I'm gonna help you out with the ranch, and I'm just gonna stay here, and we're gonna figure it out." And
Perfection.
well, and his friends are dicks.
oh, they
Also.
are.
Um, Heather, Marriage in Crisis.
I just have one, I think, and that's Steel, by Sawyer Bennett. And so it is part of my absolute favorite series ever, which is the Arizona Vengeance. I love how Steele just like his soon to be ex-wife is like dating, and he sees her on a date, and he like loses his crap.
Loses
I
his
mean, he
shit.
like loses it. Because they were super young, they had kids, and like he just really thought he needed to be like bring home the money and not like emotionally support his wife. And
Yeah.
that's not how it went. I think it was done very well because this is a hard trope to write.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Leah, what do you got?
Okay. So I had not loved a lot of stuff she's written recently, but Tessa Bailey, Love Her or Lose Her. This is book 3 in
2.
her I think it's Hot and Hammered
2. It's book
series.
2.
Is it book 2? I thought it was book 3.
It's book
Oh
2.
no, it is book 2.
It's
Sorry.
book
You're
2.
right.
I
Book
know
2.
things. It was on my
But
list. That's all.
oh, well, that's why. So this is Rosie and Dominic. They were high school sweethearts, got married young. Like he was in the service, he came home, like, and she's really kind of lost herself, and the communication is non-existent anymore. And so her friends encourage her to like start going out and finding herself and doing things for herself because she basically is a housewife who lost like her identity in a sense. And he's not emotionally stunted, but he is emotionally like blind to what she's going through, and he thinks that she's happy but she's not. And it's just one of those ones. I think that it's well done because like they do go to therapy, they do talk things out. Like yes, by the end of the book he's still like grunts and things, but at least he has like a communication in his grunts instead of just caveman grunts.
Does anyone have any others that fall into this category?
I I read one by Max Walker, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if they were married or not. So
Throw the title out. So,
it's called Loosen Up. It's by Max Walker, and it's in an author collab series called Aces Wild. And so Aces is a sex store. And so like all these couples go in, and these guys, it's MM, and they like ended up at this random town, and like one of them is really stressed, and they're really having a hard time, and so they wanted to go on vacation to kind of reconnect, and it's kinky, and it's Max Walker, so
Max
obviously
Walker.
it's good.
Did you have any other, Leah?
I have one more. Scorned Vows by Victoria Page. It's a mafia, like arranged marriage. Like he basically says at the beginning of the book, like I'm not gonna fall in love with her, but like he doesn't tell her this, he tells everybody else, and like he woos her to make her fall in love, but then he like ruins her, and they have a baby. and then she gets in an accident. I'm spoiling this, so just putting that out there. She gets in an accident and ends up with amnesia, and so she's been missing for 2 years. And so like when he finds her and brings her back, like he has, and all this time he's like in love with her, pining because he realizes what a dumbass he was and how amazing she truly is. And so like it's the crisis because like she has to remember things, but then when she remembers things, she remembers all the bad shit he did. And so it does not go well for a while.
Okay.
But it was delightful.
I have one, Van 2 by Sawyer Bennett. This was one where we saw the couple in the Cold Fury and they had an HFN because Sawyer Bennett does not write epilogues. Their marriage was in crisis and due to outside sources, not cheating. And he goes back to professional hockey after leaving it. I also have the Bromance Book Club by Lyssa K. Adams. I think that's a really good one to show character development, but it's lighter on the spice. So it's really about the hard work and not the sexual tension for that one.
Yep.
Ever After Always by Chloe Lisi. This one deals with he is trying to mask his anxiety and how it's affecting him and his worry about starting a family and stuff like that. And so it's heavy in miscommunication, but they do the work to get to the end. And then The Darkest Hour by Maya Banks is book 1. She goes on a mission trip with a senator, gets kidnapped by a guerrilla army in the rainforests of South America, but then he gets a tip that she's still alive. He thinks she's dead. He gets a tip that she thinks he's alive, so he, with his help of his brothers, goes to the rainforest to rescue her, and then they have to come back.
He doesn't remember him.
But they were on the
And
verge of
also-
divorce.
Well,
At
she
the
had divorce
beginning.
papers drawn up, and she too, when she starts remembering things, it's all the
Bad
bad
things.
shit.
Yeah. So that's another one that works. Okay, Still Married. Amanda, what do you got for Still Married?
Again, I don't really have that many. I already talked about it. Was like Birthright by Nora Roberts that's probably one of my favorite books by her. And like Callie thinks that they're divorced. She's like an archaeologist and they're working on a dig in Maryland, and Jake gets brought in. He's like the premier like anthropologist, and her boss wants him on this dig with her. And you know, later it turns out, she thinks they're divorced and he never filed the papers. And he's like there with her when she finds out that she was stolen as a baby. And like, it's a whole mess. Like that is one of my favorite Nora Roberts books. So
Heather, what do you have?
I actually don't have any, but in the research, I found a couple coming out, or one coming out and one I just found. One that's coming soon by Hannah Bonin Young. It's called Out of the Woods.
Yeah.
It looks really good. So like they're already married. They were like high school sweethearts, and she's sort of just feeling like she wants to find herself, and he kind of has to like kind of saves the day, and that frustrates her. So they go on like this hiking excursion. It just seems super cute, and I have high hopes for it. The other one is called Ruthless Love by Selena Sanders. They like have the divorce drawn up and they're ready to go, and he's like, let's have one more like kind of go roll in the hay. She's like, okay. And so that's on the Kindle.
Oh, I read that one. Yeah, it just came out. It's actually Laramie Briscoe's pen name. Yeah, so it's not bad. Like they got married young, they are going through the divorce, and I think you might like it. It's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Amanda, you said you don't have many of these, right? Sorry. I got
no,
mixed up.
that was really it for me. So you guys go.
Leah, what do you got,
So
Leah?
it's the Still Married, right?
Yeah, Still Married.
So Give Love a Try by Nancy Wen. It's been 10 years. She, I believe, is looking to get married again, and they're still married, and he comes back and refuses to sign the papers and is basically like, we're going to be together again because we were young and dumb and I still love you. And that is a book where, spoiler, neither one of them have sex with other people while they're apart. So thank you, Nancy. Thank you.
Okay,
I have
so
more, but you can go
it wouldn't
next.
be an episode if I didn't mention Carrie Elks. So Hearts in Winter by
Stacy
Carrie
said read
Elks.
Winterville.
Yes, see, she's learned. Hearts in Winter by Carrie Elks is book 2. They got married young. He went off to save the world with Doctors Without Borders. She cannot do the back and forth, like he dropping into their world and then leaving again and dropping in and out. So they filed the divorce papers. His dad was supposed to handle it a little bit, but it was never handled. So he comes back and they're like, yeah, we're still married. Your dad has papers still that never got turned in for divorce. So that one makes me happy. And then Carla Luna has one called Lost and Found. It's a free novella when you sign up for her newsletter. So go to carlaluna.com, sign up for her newsletter, and you will get Lost and Found as a
Oh, I
bonus.
have that one. I forgot about that one. I think I've probably read more of the Still Married than I know, but I just couldn't
Well,
find them.
and I think that it's common with the Wake Up Married in Vegas. They go their
Yes.
separate ways. And then, because like Hockey Wife by Kate Meter. So I debated that one. Because they get married in Vegas. They both go back to Chicago. But it's 4 months later when they realize that she didn't handle the divorce or the annulment correctly. And they're still married and they're going to have a fake relationship together. There was never any
Yeah, that was
relationship.
kind of on the fence.
Right, because it doesn't feel like second chance because they never really had a first chance. They had a drunken excursion and got married in Vegas.
Well, and that's like the from the Rock Star by Jamie
Jamie
Albright.
Albright.
Like they get married in Vegas and she runs and goes back home and he chases her.
Yeah.
So it's like, but there's no like second chance to it. Like he just chases.
Rebel at Heart by Zoe York is another one where they got married young, thought they were divorced, annulment never happened, they're still married. And then Flirting with Disaster by Nina Kamar. They've been separated for 6 years and the female main character now needs the divorce. I've not read that one, but it was recommended on a thread that I created. A Forest Between Us by Allie Winters. Jenny comments on the YouTube for us.
So Blake by Nissa Catherine, they are married and they have a
Oh,
little
yeah.
girl, and then he gets kidnapped and genetically altered in the Project Arma stuff. And like, so she actually moves to the small town that he moved to because she wants to have their little girl raised like with him, and they still really care for each other, but it's a strange dynamic because like of his situation. But it's really well done. If you haven't read Nissa Catherine yet, like you need to read her. She's an excellent storyteller and her characters are very strong. And then I have Layla by Mary B. Moore. They got married and then I can't remember exactly what happened, but she ends up leaving town for 4 years, and then when she comes home after like she goes to college, but she like wasn't supposed to go away for college, but when she comes back she like avoids him at all costs because he hurt her a lot. Can't remember the exact details though.
Sue in the chat over on the YouTube comments Winter of Second Chances by Eliza Boyd. It is heartwarming. So there is that. I do think that in this Still Married, one of the micro tropes that we see a lot is that's my wife,
Yes.
Uh-huh.
which I do love that micro trope. That's my
I
wife.
do
So
Oh, I love that.
For
Anyway.
sure.
So those are our take on second chances with a twist. we know not everyone's going to love those, but the books that we recommended are ones that we think are well done, and that if you want to give this trope a try, you should check out those books.
Yes.
Okay, so guess what time it is?
It's that time
It's that time.
for book
Book
of
of
the
the week. It is book of the week time. Amanda, what's your book of the week?
Okay, so my book of the week is actually came courtesy of a comment that Stacy made in one of our other episodes this year. I think maybe it was our end of the year, but it was The X-Vows by Jessica Joyce. This was my first book by her. It is Second Chance. So it's Georgia and Eli. They dated before. They've been broken up for like 5 years, and they have to come back together to help their mutual best friend, like, do his wedding. And it's at a winery in California. It is angsty. It is messy. Like,
This has been on my TBR forever.
I was not prepared. It is so good. I mean,
Bump that up.
it is, and it's only from her POV, and I did not miss him.
Okay.
Like,
that's
I
good.
didn't, at no point
I have a
did I
hard time with that
feel,
sometimes.
I do too, and at no point did I feel like I needed a chapter from his POV, because it is so well done that you are feeling all of it, you are seeing all of it. And like, I'd gotten about 80% through, 85% through, and I was like, it was late, we had gone to bed, but I wasn't sleeping, and I was like, oh, well, I'll just finish the rest of it, right, while I'm laying in bed. It broke me. Like,
Oh.
oh my God, I was like, the end of it, he just, like, when you find out like some little thing that he's been doing the whole time that you don't know about, and this is where his POV really like shines through, and I was like, oh my God, what have you done to me?
Okay.
Highly
I'm gonna have to
recommend.
read that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heather, what's your book of the week?
It's called Simplicity. It's Oakley's Crew by Nicole Dykes. It was recommended in one of my Facebook groups. It's a really low angsty romance set in like a super small town in Kansas. One of the main characters inherits his grandmother's like house farm, and the other one is there doing like work on it, and he is like, you just need to stick around for 6 months, and they're like doing it's a kind of a little bit like a Grumpy Sunshine. It's super cute, very low angst, which is what I need right now.
Leah, what's your book of the week?
My book of the week is Twisted Rock by Jill Sanders. I have been having a heck of a time with books lately because 2025 apparently is going with my not so great streak. But so the whole premise is there's a husband and wife who they fall in love when they're young, they get married, they live in the city, but she doesn't like it, so they buy this old manor house in like the Erie area and are fixing it up. But he works at a law firm, so he flies back and forth. Like that is how he commutes, which is yeah. But anyway, so at the beginning of the book, we find out that his plane has crashed and he has died, but there's this whole mystery like aspect to it. And usually like when those types of things happen, I figure it out. I don't know if like my headspace was not right, but I did not figure it out. And when I found out what like was going on, I was like, oh my.
Ooh,
Oh
write this one
my. But
down.
so she gets a new love interest. He is actually the one who delivers the news that her husband has died, but he befriends her because she's a hot mess, as one would be. And so he just basically goes back continually to check on her, like, because he shows up one time and she has not like bathed for weeks, like is crunchy basically. And she's like, has this moment of clarity, like, I can't believe this is what I've allowed my life to become. And
Yeah.
so like a year later is like when they start their relationship. So she has grieved an appropriate amount of time, but yeah, it was really good. There are some twists and turns I wasn't expecting.
It's
Okay.
99 cents right now, everyone, on
It
the
is, yes.
Amazon.
Okay.
And it is a standalone. Like she doesn't have any other books like connected to this one. So
Um, so my book of the week is The Relationship Mechanics by Carmen Lee. And actually Heather recommended this because she had seen it on NetGalley. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to download it. And I read it. It's sapphic. It's small town, close proximity, instant connection. Vinny is a mechanic. And I love when we get a female main character that's holding a traditionally masculine job. I think it's always a win for me. So she's the mechanic, and then Jessica is a social media star, and she has a little bit of a crisis and is in hiding. Doesn't want to fall in love. Comes to the small town to hide out, and they start off as it's an instant connection, and they start off as a fling of friends with benefits, but I'm going to go back and read her first book. This is only her second book. I'm going to go back and read the first book because this one was just, it was good. Wasn't May Marvel good, guys? Don't worry. I'm still only in love with them. But
And the cover is adorable.
adorable. Yep,
yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
It's just a
There it
fling.
is.
Yeah. And like I feel like that's a trope episode we probably should do too, like a microtrope. It's just a
Oh,
fling.
The fling.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
We
do
all
the
know
fling.
it's not
My-
You
just
know
a
what? I
fling.
don't have a shelf for that, Becky.
Oh,
It is like my
You
favorite.
should start making
we'll
one.
put it down on
You
the
have
line.
until like April. That could be an April episode.
You know it doesn't matter.
She's now like gonna be really mad at me and she has to go through and try to figure
I'm
out.
surprised you don't have a shelf for that though.
Well, but don't you think that it would start with instant connection? So you have an instant
Yeah,
connection
it might
shelf
be. I might be able to find it
or
from other
friends with
tropes.
benefit?
Yeah.
It's like friends with benefits.
Okay.
Heather, what were you gonna say before we?
I just love like Friends with Benefits, but I'm also just going to tell you that Carmen Lee, book 3 of this series, is called The Secret Crush Book Club. And it's a small town. They're in a book club together. You guys, it's in August. And the cover, oh,
Well, the first one is something like The Lucky Strike. They're on a bowling team together.
yes.
Yeah.
And the cover, again, 10 out of 10 stars, you
Yeah,
guys.
these are covers
They
I have to
are
buy.
so cute.
I'm looking them up, so don't you
Yeah.
worry.
They're so cute, but
Oh, that is really cute.
the story was good. It was solid, and there was spice, and there was chemistry. And I know that that's something, right? 7-10 split. It's so fun. You know, that's
I like the
something that
titles a lot,
sapphic romances sometimes get dinged for. And so I kind of, in 2025, it started this last year, but in 2025, I'm going to find more with better chemistry. That is my goal. And so far, you know, May Marvel and Courtney Kay, and now I've got Carmen Lee writing some over-the-top sapphic chemistry. So that's what I got for my book of the week. Okay, now that we've looked at all the book covers and everybody's bought paperbacks tonight.
Off track again.
I've lost focus. I'm just doing my.
Are you
searching now.
shopping now?
She's shopping.
Yeah, Leah's shopping right now.
So this has nothing to do with anything, but so we played a new game tonight, and my girl child was telling me the directions, and like 3 minutes into it, just stopped paying attention. She gets almost to the end. I was like, "Yeah, I have no idea what you just said. I'm sorry."
Okay. Drink
It's
more
like your
coffee.
voice was so soothing, but lost lost attention and I was distracted. You have to start again.
Okay, Patreon update. Thank you to Swag Pack sponsoring author Rebecca Gallo for sponsoring January's packs. Those should have started to hit mailboxes. They had December and January in them. The next mailing will go out in March. February book club is going to be our Galentine's Day celebration this year. You can find details on our website. We're going to make a craft, and Nikki promises to teach us how to make the perfect espresso martini, is what she said. So, and other
I
drinks.
believe it.
We're going to try to make blackberry smashes, bourbon smashes too.
Are we getting a shopping list?
There will be this week shopping list, and we will have a cocktail and a mocktail version. She will help us make both. And then make sure you are back here Wednesday for our discussion of Happily After All by Maisie Yates, and all I have to say is I get Gladys. I love Gladys. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Buzzing About Romance. For a complete list of the books we discussed, be sure to visit our On the Shelf show notes at buzzingaboutromance.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date and connect with our amazing community of romance enthusiasts. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to have you leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Share it with your friends. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you more fun and exciting content each and every week. Oh, programming note, and we'll announce it next week too. We are taking Super Bowl Sunday off, so there'll be more announcements about that. So forgot to add that in. Until next time, everybody.
Happy reading, everybody.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.